Thank you for joining us. This is Chapter 1 of Gold of the Desert King, The Rise of Mansa Musa, titled The Shadow of Greatness. We hope you enjoy the beginning of Musa's extraordinary journey. Gold of the Desert King, The Rise of Mansa Musa, Chapter 1, The Shadow of Greatness. While princes grapple and bleed for glory in the dust of Niani's royal compound, 15-year-old Musa stands apart, calculating the exact angle at which his cousin Muhammad will throw his next opponent. His fingers trace invisible geometric patterns in the air as the wrestlers circle each other. The crowd roars with anticipation, but Musa notes only the shift in weight, the positioning of feet, the leverage points that will determine victory more surely than brute strength ever could. The afternoon sun beats down on the packed earth arena, turning sweat-slicked bodies to burnished copper. Drummers pound out a rhythm that matches the quickening pulse of the spectators. Courtiers in fine robes, warriors with scarred torsos, servants stealing moments from their duties to watch princes prove their worth in Mali's most honored tradition. The scent of dust and sweat mingles with the smoke from cooking fires beyond the compound walls. In the distance, the muezzin calls the faithful to prayer, his voice a momentary counterpoint to the grunts of exertion from the wrestling pit. Muhammad towers over his opponent, a prince from a tributary family whose name Musa has deliberately not bothered to learn. What matters is the pattern, not the person. The tributary prince feints left, attempting to unbalance Muhammad with a sweep of his leg. Predictable, Musa whispers to himself. Third time he's tried the same approach. Muhammad sidesteps with surprising grace for his size, hooks an arm under his opponent's shoulder, and executes the throw Musa had foreseen seconds earlier. The crowd erupts as the smaller man crashes to the ground, sending up a cloud of ochre dust. Muhammad doesn't immediately release his opponent. Instead, he holds him pinned, muscles straining along his back, until the defeated prince slaps the earth 3 times in submission. Only then does Muhammad rise, arms raised, turning in a slow circle to acknowledge the adulation of the spectators. The son of Keita remains undefeated, announces a court official, his voice carrying across the compound. Musa watches his cousin's theatrical victory celebration with a mixture of admiration and mild contempt. Muhammad possesses raw power and natural instinct, certainly, but his technique lacks efficiency. 3 times during the match, he left his left side exposed due to improper foot placement. Against a more skilled opponent, such carelessness would prove costly. Attendants rush forward with clothes to wipe the sweat and dust from Muhammad's body, while court musicians intensify their playing. The drum beats quicken, accompanied now by the hollow notes of wooden flutes and the metallic clatter of rattles. 2 bare-chested boys perform backflips in Muhammad's honor, their small bodies twisting perfectly in the air before landing with remarkable precision. From his position at the edge of the crowd, Musa notes the arrangement of power. His uncle, the Mansa, observes from a raised platform beneath a canopy of indigo-dyed cloth, his face betraying nothing. Council elders nod approvingly at Muhammad's display of strength. In their eyes, a future ruler must command respect through physical prowess first, wisdom second. Courtiers with daughters of marriageable age edge closer to the wrestling pit, their ambitious gazes fixed on the victor. No one looks at Musa. He prefers it this way. To be overlooked is to be underestimated, and to be underestimated is to move freely where others cannot. He adjusts the position of the leather-bound manuscript tucked beneath his arm, an Arabic text on astronomical calculations that he'd been studying before being summoned to witness the match. Muhammad, still basking in victory, catches sight of his slender cousin at the periphery. He grins, white teeth flashing against his dust-streaked face, and strides over. The crowd parts before him like water breaking around a stone. "Cousin!" Muhammad claps a heavy hand on Musa's shoulder, nearly buckling the smaller boy's knees. "Did you enjoy the demonstration? Perhaps you'd care to try your skill next, though we might need to find an opponent your own size. Perhaps among the women?" Laughter ripples through the nearby spectators. Musa feels their eyes upon him now, measuring his reaction, waiting for signs of weakness or anger. he offers neither. An impressive victory, Musa says, his voice deliberately level. Though I noticed your left foot turns outward when you prepare to throw. It telegraphs your intent and creates a vulnerability that a skilled opponent might exploit. The laughter stops. Muhammad's grin falters for just a moment before widening again. Books, Muhammad exclaims, loud enough for all to hear. Always with your books and observations. Books won't defend you when raiders come, cousin. Books won't win you respect in the council. He slaps Musa's shoulder again, this time with enough force to dislodge the manuscript. Musa catches it before it falls to the dust, his fingers closing protectively around the leather binding. Perhaps not, Musa replies, but they might prevent me from breaking my ankle when I misjudge a throw. A moment of silence follows. Muhammad's expression tightens, then unexpectedly dissolves into genuine laughter. You see too much, little cousin. He lowers his voice, speaking now for Musa alone. But seeing and doing are different matters. Join us tomorrow. Put your theories to the test. Before Musa can respond, another wrestler calls out a challenge. Muhammad turns away, pulled back into his world of physical contest and immediate glory. The crowd's attention follows him, leaving Musa once again in welcome isolation. A court elder who had overheard the exchange gives Musa a measuring look. The prince speaks truth about books and raiders, he says, his tone somewhere between advice and rebuke. Indeed, Musa agrees mildly, though books might tell you when and where the raiders are most likely to come, and perhaps suggest how few men might stop them, if those men were properly positioned. The elder's eyes narrow, reassessing the slender boy before him. He opens his mouth as if to speak further, then thinks better of it and moves away, throwing a final glance over his shoulder. Musa watches him go, then turns his attention back to the wrestling pit where new contenders prepare to face each other. The sun shifts position, throwing long shadows across the compound. Soon it will be time for evening prayers, and Musa can return to his studies without the distractions of his cousin's physical theatrics. He traces a final calculation in the air with his finger, confirming his earlier observation about Muhammad's stance. There is a pattern to all things: wrestling, politics, trade. Those who see the patterns hold power that transcends mere physical strength. It is a lesson his cousin may never learn, but one Musa intends to master completely. After the wrestling match spectacle, Musa retreats to the shade of a baobab tree in the eastern corner of the compound. The ancient tree stands like a sentinel at the edge of the royal grounds, its massive trunk scarred by generations of courtly intrigue. He settles against the rough bark and reopens his manuscript. Before he can find his place, a shadow falls across the page. His mother Kanku stands before him, her posture as straight as a spear. Her eyes already asking questions his mouth hasn't yet formed. You stood apart again today, she says, not a question but an observation. Musa closes his book. There was nothing to gain by standing closer. Kanku lowers herself beside him with deliberate grace, her indigo robes settling around her like water finding its level. A single gold band encircles her wrist, its weight and craftsmanship marking her royal connection more effectively than ostentatious display ever could. The afternoon light catches the gray strands woven through her braided hair, evidence of the years she's navigated the treacherous currents of Mali's court politics. Tell me what you saw, she says. This is their ritual. While other mothers ask their sons if they enjoyed the match or performed well, Kanku asks Musa what he observed. It's how she's trained him since childhood, to watch, to analyze, to understand the layers beneath the obvious. Muhammad relies too heavily on his strength, Musa begins. He could defeat 3 opponents in succession before fatigue would make him vulnerable. His technique is improving, but he still telegraphs his intentions through his left foot placement. And the audience, the Mansa, the elders? Kanku presses, plucking a fallen leaf from her robe. The Mansa showed nothing. As usual, the elders approved Muhammad's display. There were at least 4 fathers positioning their daughters for notice. Musa pauses. And Elder Sagalan watched me throughout. His eyes never followed the match. Kenku's fingers still their movement. Sogalon is cousin to the Mansa's second wife. He lost a son in the border skirmish last season. This is how she teaches him. Fragments of information that connect to form a more complete picture, never stating implications directly, allowing him to make the connections himself. He resents my exemption from military duties, Musa concludes. Resentment is merely the visible current. Beneath it runs something deeper. Kenku leans closer, her voice dropping though no one stands near enough to overhear. Your uncle's health falters. Decisions about succession occupy every mind at court, spoken or unspoken. Musa considers this. Though Muhammad is the obvious choice as the Mansa's eldest son, succession in Mali has never followed a straight line. The Keita dynasty values capability over birth order, and a council of elders holds significant influence in the selection. I pose no threat to Muhammad's position, Musa says carefully. Kenku's laugh holds no humor. Threat is determined by the fearful, not the feared. She places her hand on his, her palm calloused from years of weaving, a skill she maintains despite her status, claiming it keeps her fingers honest. Your eyes miss nothing, my son, but remember that in this court, to be noticed is to become either valuable or dangerous. Or both, Musa adds. Indeed, often simultaneously. She taps the book in his lap. Your mind is your strength, but also your vulnerability. There are those who see your scholarly pursuits as evidence of weakness, and others who fear what knowledge you might acquire. The weight of her words settles between them. Musa is neither the strongest nor the most obviously capable prince in the royal lineage. His branch of the family claims connection to the great Sundiata through his grandfather Abu Bakr, Sundiata's brother, a claim just strong enough to make others wary, not strong enough to ensure protection. What would you have me do, mother? Abandon my studies? Take up the spear? There's no defiance in his question, only a quiet searching. I would have you survive, Kenku answers simply, and then thrive, in your own way. She straightens the fold of his robe with maternal precision. Your father saw something in you that others miss. Before he died, he told me, our son's eyes collect knowledge like others collect gold. Remember that gold can purchase protection as readily as it attracts thieves. A messenger appears at the edge of the baobab's shade, hesitating upon seeing the prince in conversation with his mother. Kenku notices him first, her gaze sharpening. Approach, she commands. The young man steps forward and bows. Prince Musa is requested at the House of Scholars. The Arabic texts from Timbuktu have arrived, and Master Kebe asks for his assistance in reviewing the astronomical calculations. Musa feels a flicker of excitement, despite the gravity of his conversation with Kenku. The texts he's been awaiting for 3 months, star charts, and calculations from scholars beyond Mali's borders. You may tell Master Kebe that the prince will attend shortly, Kenku replies before Musa can speak. The messenger bows again and retreats. When he is beyond earshot, Kenku turns back to her son. Knowledge is your path, she says, but remember that paths can lead to prominence or to precipice. She touches his cheek briefly. Go, make yourself valuable first, before you become dangerous. Musa rises, tucking his manuscript into the folds of his robe. And if I become both? Then you will need allies who value one quality enough to tolerate the other. She remains seated, watching him with eyes that see both the boy he is and the man he might become. Go carefully today. The arrival of texts from Timbuktu will not go unnoticed by those who count such connections. He leaves her beneath the baobab, her straight-backed silhouette unmistakable against the ancient trunk. From a distance, she appears to be simply a noblewoman enjoying the afternoon shade. But Musa knows she is calculating his odds of survival with the same precision he applied to the wrestling match. As he crosses the compound toward the House of Scholars, he feels the weight of watching eyes. A group of warriors from Muhammad's circle track his movement, their conversation pausing momentarily. An elder's wife whispers behind her hand to a companion, both their gazes following his progress. Too royal to be ignored, not royal enough for true protection. His mother's unspoken assessment echoes in his mind as he quickens his pace, the promise of astronomical knowledge pulling him forward, while the gravity of court politics tugs at his heels. In the eastern courtyard of Niani's royal compound, the only battles fought are between competing ideas. Here, beneath the spreading branches of ancient baobab trees, Musa finds his true element among scrolls and codices. No bloodstains the packed earth, only occasional spills of ink when a scholar's enthusiasm exceeds his caution. The scratch of reed pens against parchment and the whispered debates in multiple tongues create a symphony as complex as any drum rhythm from the wrestling grounds, but audible only to those who value such things. Musa sits cross-legged on a woven mat, surrounded by texts in various states of unfurling. The morning light filters through the leaves above, casting dappled patterns that shift across the Arabic script before him. Unlike his cousin Muhammad, whose body bears the marks of physical contest, Musa's hands show different evidence of his pursuits. Fingertips stained with ink, a small burn on his wrist from a candle that burned too low during a night of study. The account contradicts Ibn Battuta's description of the salt mines, Musa says, addressing an elderly scholar whose beard reaches the middle of his chest. Either the geographer was mistaken, or the trade routes have shifted since his journey. The elder strokes his beard, eyes narrowing at Musa's challenge. Ibn Battuta spent mere months in these lands. Perhaps he relied on second-hand accounts. Or perhaps both accounts hold truth, but speak of different seasons. Musa taps the parchment. The Tagaza mines flood during the rains. What if the southern route operates only during the dry months? The elder exchanges glances with two younger scholars. Musa catches it, that familiar look of surprise, followed by reluctant reassessment. He's seen it countless times, the moment when they remember he is more than a prince playing at scholarship. A younger teacher approaches with a text from Baghdad, his finger marking a passage about celestial navigation. What do you make of Al-Tusi's calculations for determining latitude? Could our navigators use his methods to improve the river trade? Before Musa can answer, a commotion erupts from the direction of the palace's main audience chamber. The peaceful sanctuary of learning shatters as voices rise in confusion and urgency. Musa rises to his feet, ignoring the scrolls that tumble from his lap. "What happens?" asks the elderly scholar, struggling to stand. "Emissaries," answers a court attendant who appears at the courtyard entrance, slightly breathless. "From Gao. They arrived without warning, demanding immediate audience with the Mansa." Musa follows the scholars who abandon their studies and move toward the central courtyard. By the time they arrive, a small crowd has gathered around 5 men whose travel-worn appearance speaks of a hard journey. Their leather garments and distinctive head wrappings mark them as men of rank from Gao, the powerful tributary state to the east whose loyalty to Mali has always been tenuous at best. The court interpreter, a thin, nervous man with hair going gray at his temples, stands before them, his face tightening with frustration. He speaks a few halting phrases in what Musa recognizes as a poor attempt at the eastern dialect of Songhai. The lead emissary, a broad-shouldered man with a scar cutting through his right eyebrow, responds with a torrent of words. The interpreter's expression crumples. Around the edges of the gathering, Musa notices court officials exchanging worried glances. "What does he say?" demands a royal advisor. "Is it about the tribute payment?" "I believe," the interpreter stammers. "They speak of bandits or perhaps border disputes." The emissary from Gao speaks again, his tone sharpening with impatience. Behind him, his companions shift their weight, hands never straying far from the daggers at their waists. Muhammad appears at the edge of the courtyard, drawn by the disturbance. His eyes, still bright from his wrestling victory hours earlier, now narrow with the wariness of a ruler facing unknown threats. Musa feels the pressure of dozens of eyes, the weight of potential diplomatic disaster. He steps forward before his mind fully registers the decision to move. "If I may," he says, bowing first to Muhammad, then to the emissaries. Muhammad nods, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Musa turns to the lead emissary and addresses him in flawless Eastern Songhai. "Forgive our poor welcome, honored envoy. The swiftness of your arrival caught us unprepared, but the Mansa of Mali offers you the full hospitality of Niani. May I help convey your urgent message?" The surprise on the emissary's face quickly gives way to relief. He responds rapidly, his hands sketching shapes in the air as he speaks. Musa listens, nodding occasionally, then turns to Muhammad. "They come from Governor Mahmud of Gao. 3 villages near the border have been raided in the past month. The attackers fly no banners, but survivors report they speak the tongue of Masi warriors from the south." "And the tribute?" asks the royal advisor, still fixated on his earlier concern. Musa addresses the emissary again, receiving a curt reply before translating. The tribute caravan follows 10 days behind them, as scheduled. But the governor fears if these raids continue, the gold mines will be abandoned, and there will be no tribute next season. Muhammad steps forward, his princely bearing now replaced by the focused attention of a ruler. "Tell them we will discuss this matter fully in council. My commanders will hear their account of the raiders' tactics." He glances at Musa. "You will attend as translator." As the court officials escort the emissaries to guest quarters, Musa feels a hand close around his upper arm. Kanku pulls him into the shadow of a columned walkway, her fingers digging into his flesh. "You've made yourself visible now," she hisses, eyes darting to ensure they aren't overheard. "They will either find you a use or find you a threat." "They already see me as the scholar prince," Musa counters. "Nothing has changed. Everything has changed." Kanku's voice drops lower. "Before, you were merely odd, a prince who preferred scrolls to spears. Now they see your value, and so will those who might fear it." "Who would fear a translator?" Kanku releases his arm with a small push of frustration. "The same men who fear anyone with the Mansa's ear. Did you notice Farai watching you? His son wants the treasury position, yet your cousin's eyes followed you, not him." Before Musa can respond, a royal attendant approaches. Bowing low, "Prince Musa," the man says, "the Mansa requests your presence in the royal treasury immediately." As the attendant retreats to a respectful distance, Kanku's fingers brush Musa's sleeve once more. "Remember what I've taught you. In the royal court, to be noticed is to become either valuable or dangerous, often both at once." Musa inclines his head, acknowledging her wisdom without committing to the caution she counsels. As he follows the attendant across the sun-baked courtyard, he feels the prickle of eyes upon his back, some curious, some calculating, all suddenly aware of the scholarly prince who speaks with many tongues. The royal treasury Mali lies 3 levels beneath the palace floor, where the air runs cool and dry, even in the scorching heat of midday. Musa descends stone steps worn smooth by generations of officials, each footfall echoing in the narrow passage. Lamplight flickers against whitewashed walls as they progress deeper, the smell of mineral earth giving way to something else, a scent both metallic and ancient. When the guardian pulls back the final leather curtain, Musa sees it, gold in its myriad forms. Dust and nuggets, ingots and coins, jewelry and raw ore, all glittering in the amber light like a sea of captured stars. 6 court officials stand in rigid formation, their shadows stretching across clay floors polished by countless footsteps. Behind them, massive wooden chests line the walls, their iron bindings gleaming dully in the lamplight. At the center of the room sits Muhammad, perched on a low stool beside a table covered with leather-bound ledgers and small brass scales. Musa pauses at the threshold, struck not by the gold itself. He's seen plenty throughout his life, but by the sheer concentration of wealth in one underground chamber, a kingdom's power distilled to its essence. "Enter, cousin," Muhammad calls, his voice echoing strangely in the vaulted space. "Come see what you've earned with that clever tongue of yours." Musa steps forward, conscious of the official's eyes tracking his movement, particularly the narrow gaze of Chief Treasurer Farai, whose perpetually downturned mouth now twitches with barely contained displeasure. Beside him stands his son, a young man whose expensive robes cannot disguise the softness of someone who has never known hardship. Muhammad gestures toward the ledgers. You've studied numbers as well as languages, yes? Written systems from Cairo to Timbuktu? I have, Mansa, Musa confirms, keeping his tone neutral despite the sudden acceleration of his pulse. Muhammad slaps his palm against the ledgers. Good, because our gold needs counting, properly this time. He shoots a pointed look at Farai, whose face remains impressively impassive. The gold tax from the trading caravans requires particular attention. Some merchants have grown creative in their accounting. A murmur ripples through the officials. One of them, a thin-bearded man with ink-stained fingertips, steps forward. Mansa, with all respect, such responsibilities traditionally fall to men of greater experience. And what has this experience yielded? Muhammad rises, suddenly looking less like the wrestling champion and more like the ruler of an empire. 3 consecutive seasons of declining tax collection despite increasing trade. Either our merchants have all become destitute, his laugh holds no humor, or someone isn't looking closely enough. The silence that follows carries weight. Musa stands perfectly still, sensing invisible currents swirling through the treasury. Old allegiances, quiet resentments, whispered ambitions. He notes which officials avoid making eye contact with Farai. Muhammad approaches Musa, resting a heavy hand on his shoulder. From today, you will oversee the collection of gold tax from all merchants entering Niani. You will report directly to me, bypassing, he pauses deliberately, established channels. Musa bows, precise and formal. I am honored by your trust, Mansa. I will serve with diligence. I expect nothing less. Muhammad turns to the assembled officials. You will provide Prince Musa with all records and extend every courtesy. Anyone who fails in this regard answers directly to me. As the officials bow and murmur acknowledgments, Musa catches the calculating glances they exchange. He catalogues each one, noting who seems merely curious and who radiates silent hostility. Farai's son stares at him with naked contempt, while his father's face remains a mask of dignified acceptance. Muhammad dismisses everyone but Musa with a wave. When they're alone, save for the silent guardian at the door, he speaks more casually. You surprise me today, cousin. I've always known you were clever with books, but I never thought to put that cleverness to practical use. Many skills can serve Mali, Musa replies carefully. Muhammad picks up a handful of gold dust, letting it sift through his fingers back onto the table. Indeed. Though I wonder, will you find this work satisfying? Counting another man's wealth instead of wrestling for glory or hunting in the forests? The question carries no mockery, only genuine curiosity. Musa considers his answer. There is honor in all service that strengthens Mali. Muhammad studies him for a moment, then laughs. A diplomatic answer worthy of your new position. Very well, the records are yours. Prove my instinct right. A tax collector. The words hang in the air between Musa and his childhood friend, a scholar's son who now serves as record keeper for one of the city's mosques. They sit in the quiet courtyard of Musa's mother's house, sharing a meal of rice and spiced lamb as evening descends. Muhammad honors you with all the excitement of counting camel fleas. Musa tears a piece of flatbread. You misunderstand the appointment. Do I? While he leads armies and plans hunts, you'll be squinting at merchants' ledgers until your eyes cross. A servant passes, refreshing their water cups. Musa waits until they're alone again before responding. Those who count gold come to possess it eventually. His friend pauses mid-bite, studying Musa's face. You surprise me sometimes. There's an ambition in you that hides behind those scholarly eyes. Musa merely smiles, neither confirming nor denying. 3 days later, Musa hunches over the treasury table, surrounded by unfurled scrolls and stacked ledgers. The lamps burn low, casting long shadows across figures inked in different hands, some neat and precise, others hurried and slanting. His eyes burn from hours of concentration, but his mind remains sharp, tracking numbers across months and years. He reaches for another ledger, this one recording tax payments from Berber traders bringing goods from Morocco and beyond. The binding cracks as he opens it, suggesting it hasn't been consulted often. His finger traces down columns of figures, stopping occasionally to consult reference documents. "Another discrepancy?" asks the assistant assigned to him, one of the younger Treasury officials who seems eager rather than resentful of Musa's appointment. "The third this week," Musa taps the page. This merchant reported half the silk volume in Niani that he declared in Timbuktu. Either he sold goods without paying proper tax, or someone recorded a lower amount than what was collected. The assistant finishes, his voice dropping to a whisper. Musa nods once, making a notation in his personal record. Already he's identified patterns in the inconsistencies. Which officials handled which merchants, which trade goods showed the largest discrepancies, which seasons saw the most significant shortfalls, a picture emerging from scattered dots of information. He reaches for a small leather pouch, loosening the drawstring to pour a measure of gold dust onto a brass scale. The gold catches the lamplight, transforming from dull yellow to brilliant amber as it moves. The fine grains cascade like water, settling with a whisper against the metal. Musa balances the scale with practiced precision, but his focus isn't merely on the weight. He feels something else as the gold passes through his fingers, something beyond the cool, heavy physical sensation. Power, certainly, but also connection. This gold links empires and kingdoms across vast distances, binds merchants and rulers in complex webs of obligation and opportunity. It flows like water through Mali, and now through his hands. He records the weight in his ledger, his script precise and elegant. Already his columns and figures tell a story different from the official records. A story of wealth underreported, of tributaries diverted before reaching the royal treasury. "We'll need to examine the caravan records from the eastern route next," he tells his assistant, "particularly the Gao tributes." As the assistant hurries to fetch the relevant scrolls, Musa sits back, stretching his cramped shoulders. His gaze sweeps the treasury room, the chests, the scales, the careful organization of Mali's wealth. He thinks of his mother's warning about becoming visible. Too late now, but perhaps visibility brings its own protection, especially when one controls what others desire. He returns to his calculations, reed pen scratching against parchment, adding to the growing map of Mali's gold, where it enters the empire, where it flows, where it sometimes disappears. Knowledge that, in the right hands, might prove more valuable than the gold itself. We hope that you have enjoyed this first chapter of The Gold of the Desert King, The Rise of Mansa Musa. Details are below on how to get the full audiobook as well as the ebook. Thanks again, dear listener, and check back often for more history retold badly.